The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. I'm very excited to have my guests on tonight. They are the creators of Savage the Musical, and can't wait to get into this with them because this is a great story. I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I can't wait to have you all hear about it tonight. With me, I have Nicolette Blount, who is the writer, co-writer, the lyricist, and the co-composer. Welcome, Nicolette.
Thanks.
And I also have Lindel Hart, who is the co-writer of Savage the Musical. So welcome, Lindel.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to have you both. First of all, Nicolette, I want to get into this first with you because I know this is your great grandmother, who is the story. The story's about her. But why don't you get into the story a little bit about who your great grandmother was and about her performing, and because I think this is it's fascinating because I know it's from the 1920s, but it's still relevant today. So why don't we talk about that a little bit about your great grandmother?
My great grandmother was Chickasaw Native American, and I'm actually I'm a registered member of the Chickasaw tribe, even though I don't look it. I know, but you can't judge a book by its cover. Yes, she was Chickasaw. She grew up on the Chickasaw reservation, and she got married, had 2 children, and then she, without giving the whole story away, she became a sharpshooter in circuses and vaudeville, and she was not only shooting guns but also shooting bows and arrows. And then, unfortunately, women didn't have many choices back in the 20s. So it wasn't a common thing to be a working mother who wanted a career and to be able to keep your kids. She ended up having a lot more kids than that, but for the sake of the musical, we're focusing on my grandfather, Paul. And so we focus on this relationship. And unfortunately, she couldn't take him with her going forward into her career of vaudeville and then silent films. And then Lindel, do you want to continue? I'm not sure how much we should share here.
Well, I think that the crux of the story is really what motivated her, what drove her to have this career that she did, and the sacrifices that she made in order to be able to support herself as a single mother. And so performing was what she was able to do, and she did that in circuses, vaudeville, and in silent film, and sometimes simultaneously. She would be doing all of those things and floating back and forth between them.
I'm Wanda Savage, you bet I am, shooting from the hip, from the native land. Take no prisoners, watch the smoking gun, wander in the distance to the setting sun. Wanda Savage, Wanda Savage, Wanda Savage, Wanda Savage. Chickasaw by birth and savage for life, raised in the West, my soul formed by strife. Survival of the fittest, day by day. Better to be the hunter than to be the prey. I lived on the streets, I've been homeless, but don't ever cross me, I'm ferocious. You've never seen a faster gal shoot like this. My trigger happy fingers never miss. I'm Wanda Savage.
vaudeville was entertainment back then. People didn't have the kind of money they have maybe today to go to concerts, and that didn't even exist back then. So vaudeville was really it. So how much research went into, the writing of this book, and how important was your great grandmother, Nicole? I mean, how important were people like that to society? Because that was how they that was their release from their everyday struggles, right?
Yeah. And so we did a lot of research in addition to the stories I grew up with from my family. Actually, she has a ranch in Wyoming that's still there today, and her part of my family runs it. And so we did a lot of research. We looked up old newspapers. We found things that our family didn't even know existed. We found newspaper articles in Australia, all over the place, with pictures of her and all kinds of stuff. And so there was a lot of research that went into this, and not just about her life, but also, there's parts of her life. She went from silent films to a dancing saloon or a brothel. And there's like this big gap of how did she get there? And, the family assuming, well, she just needed money, but she went from working with Jack Hoxsey and Mildred Harris, who was Charlie Chaplin's wife, one of his wives, to a brothel. So how does that happen? And so within that, Lindel and I had to research the things that might happen to a woman trying to get up in the world, an indigenous woman trying to get up in the world. And on top of that, seeing pictures of my grandmother where she looked like they lightened her, especially once she went to Hollywood. And we know that a lot of that happened back in the day. Lindel, do you want to add?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there were, many cases of actresses whose looks were dramatically altered to make them more presentable to the audiences that the movies were geared toward. And Wanda definitely had some looks that were changed once she went to Hollywood. And it plays into, some of the issues of race that we're still dealing with 100 years later. And it deals with the imbalance of power that women faced during that period of time and still today. So, we've been working with some of those ideas and some of those issues that Wanda obviously faced, and putting them in an historical context of the period that she lived. And so it's been interesting to educate ourselves in that way with material that wasn't specific to Wanda, but was specific to the era in which she lived and worked. And so it's eye-opening, and it's even more so because some things just haven't changed as much as we think they have, or as we'd like to think they have.
Yeah, and I would say there's a balance between what is historically accurate in her life and things that we've had to kind of create based on the historical time that she lived in. Did she shoot a husband? Yes, she did. That's in there. I mean, so there are things in there that really happened. And then there's things that we kind of had to create.
Now, when you wrote the book for this, I mean, did you keep in mind, obviously during the time, the 20s, as we kind of just talked about, but, did you, because that was groundbreaking. It had to have been groundbreaking what she was doing, especially as an indigenous woman, especially a woman in the 20s. Did you kind of make something or did you kind of create the story to really kind of highlight that piece? And because I think, a lot of audiences today, a lot of theater audiences, from what I could see anyway, going to a lot of Broadway shows, living in the New York area, a lot of younger folks are going to the theater more and more now, and they might not be as well versed, I guess, in history or the 20s. Did you keep that in mind when you were writing the book?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to say that part of the indigenous part of the show, which is not the whole thing, but we gave enough of her background on the Chickasaw tribe. So my Chickasaw tribe has an endangered language. They have maybe 50 elders who speak the language fluently, and that goes down every day as they age and people pass away. So it was important to me that we put some of that language in the show, not in the whole show. It's basically in a few scenes. And we've done it in a way that you know what they're saying. We've gotten some feedback in some of our readings that we did a good job of that. They could understand what the word meant. Either someone repeats in an answer that made you understand what they said first in Chickasaw or whatnot. So that is in there, the indigenous piece of the show. And I really want to bring awareness to this beautiful language that may not be around much longer. The Chickasaws are doing a great job of trying to get a Rosetta Stone out there to us and things like that, to the tribal members to learn the language before it goes away. But that is in there. And as far as like the younger people in the 1920s, I think we've done a really good job with the music. I like to say that the music is jazz and blues inspired pop, or pop inspired jazz and blues. We recently got a quote from Kevin Lynch, who is a musical director in Broadway, and I posted on my Instagram, and he basically said, we sound like nothing out there, and it's a breath of fresh air, which, made us a huge compliment for us. But we are not your typical musical theater writers in story or in music. And I've always thought that, I hate when I get an album and I fast forward through every single song, or most of the songs, and then you have like two that you really like. And I really want our music, all of it to be catchy and to be something maybe that you could play on the radio and you wouldn't even know it was from musical theater.
Well, let's talk about the music real quick. Talk about some of the songs that we can find on the album, and some of the songs that they'll hear in the musical, and how they came about when you started writing them.
So we're going to come out with an EP next month, June 28th, on my mom's birthday. She's passed away from brain cancer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I wanted to do something special. So the songs on the EP will be some of the songs that are already streaming, but a lot of them are kind of redone and added a few little verses in. So Wanda Savage, Cat's Meow, Warrior, Start Again, Lighten Up, Take My Shot, and Currency of Men. A lot. So I would say a lot of times I write the music myself. Sometimes me and my co-writer, John, who isn't here today, he has a brand new baby. So he and I will sometimes sit down and write a song together. Sometimes I will bring lyrics to him and I have the hook of the music, and then he and I construct the rest of it. He's the arranger of all the music. So anything that I write, he brings it up another level. I do a lot of writing in the shower. Sounds bad. I tend to get like lyrics and melody come to me all at once. Sure. And then sometimes I'll flesh out the lyrics a little bit more, but I'm usually thinking about a scene. I'm thinking about something that, Lindel and I have already written the outline and the book, and thinking about something that needs to basically where a scene or a moment needs to be sung. When there's so much emotion that you have to break out into song in one way or another.
Well, I was going to ask you that because, when you write a book, do you keep the kind of music in mind? I mean, so the book is written first and then the music comes after that based on the words in the book. How does that
sometimes
usually... Yeah.
Sometimes this has been kind of going on in parallel for a lot of the time that we've been working together. And sometimes Nicolette will have an inspiration that comes to her for a song that fits into a scene that we've talked about but haven't written.
Sure.
And then we can write the scene to kind of dovetail with that. And sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes we've written the scene and she goes away and comes up with a song that fits into where we've, put an indicator that says song to go here. So it's been sort of happening in both ways simultaneously throughout the process. And it's not necessarily the way that every team works, but it's the way that we've worked. And
it works for you. Yeah.
It works for us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, I've been around theater my whole life, and it's, it's interesting to see the process of different writers and different lyricists and how they work, because it really is, different depending on who you are. And it's nice to be, like you said, the feedback that you got as far as being refreshing and that it doesn't sound like every other musical. I think that's important, especially now, because I think theater audiences, correct me if I'm wrong, but theater audiences are getting smarter. They're getting, they're seeing through things a little more than they used to.
Definitely.
It's not just about the entertainment value, but it's about leaving an impact with the story. When you walk out of the theater, you're going to remember the subject of that story, which I think is the whole point. And especially here with your great grandmother, Nicolette, I think it's important, especially like I said, especially nowadays with, just everything, the Me Too movement, and everything around race and everything about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think it's important to tell stories like this to mass audiences, and who knows, you can change somebody based on a musical like this, that somebody walks out of the theater and they can be a changed person. So I think that's an important story to tell. The other thing I want to talk about the music is, a lot of times with musicals, I think the one thing you really remember hooks and different things about like, Hamilton, I guess, is one of the examples I'll say right now, because everybody remembers the music. But when you write music, Nicolette, for this musical here, what did you think about, as far as like, because I know that you wanted kind of a pop feel, but were you trying to go for a certain audience, or is it just something that you like? I mean, is it pop music is something that you kind of go towards, or when you write, is that kind of just your love of music, I guess? What kind of music do you like?
So I'm classically trained,
Okay.
but I love jazz, and I sing pop and jazz, and Lindel and I do musical theater together. So like as performers. So I have a lot of influences. For example, when I wrote Wanda Savage, I started out with the beginning of the hook, the whole first verse, and all I was thinking about is Wanda is this badass, sassy, strong. She wore pants all the time in a time where women were being put in jail for wearing pants. I'm thinking, like, how would she sound? She would sound earthy, darker tone, not just this high, nasally, not to offend anybody, but like typical musical theater voice.
Sure.
And then I have a friend named Sam who has recorded, she has recorded as Wanda in the songs on the EP, and also played Wanda when we did our New York Musical Theater Festival concert. And her voice is that deeper, stronger tone, and she's very sassy. So, and she's indigenous partly. So I've thought of her. So sometimes I'll think of someone. Same with Currency of Men. That song was written about Vivian, who uses men to move up in the world, as women did in the 20s. They didn't have many choices. So it's like, sleep with this guy, go and marry that guy. Oh, that guy makes more money. Divorce that guy, go marry that guy. And so she's kind of the epitome of that in the show, which is a stark comparison to Wanda, who's the strong woman. Like, I don't give a damn. I'm not going to do that. But in Currency of Men, I wanted to show, I figured she would be like, it would be more of this bluesy thing of her talking about how she uses men but then it's killing her inside.
I learned long ago how to get that dough. You take what's yours, even if it's hers. That's the way it goes. I've been around. I know how this goes down. He makes the cash, and I just shake my ass. It's the currency of men. It's hard sometimes to play this game of theirs. I've left behind pieces of me everywhere. To move up in this life, a girl must do all that she can. Use the currency of men. Kiss the rocket, he'll give you his wallet. That's just how they play. What I want, I get. But is it all worth it? While I take control, I'm losing my soul bit by bit. It's hard sometimes.
And it kind of goes along with the Me Too movement as we know it. We've heard so many stories of women who did play the game and did sleep with directors and were manipulated and things like that. Some knew what they were doing, some didn't. That's the currency of men. That's the way it is. So I think that I just take some influences. I've always loved pop music. I love Britney. So, I mean,
who doesn't?
I grew up in the 80s. My favorite band is Duran Duran. And Simon
I like
LeBon,
Duran
excellent lyricist.
Yeah.
So if Simon hears this, I would love to meet you.
Well, maybe we'll have him on the show, and
oh gosh,
we can surprise him and have you come on the show.
Oh my gosh, I would literally die. But I don't know. I think I have all these influences in me, and all the things I've gone through myself.
Yeah.
I've had my own Me Too moments, so I think that my music is just influenced by a lot of that. And then John is a jazz pianist, so he can play anything. And I know that if I have this hook or even a full song, like Cat's Meow had a full song, I knew it was going to be a jazz song. I had the chords, but I'm not that good of a piano player. I'm good enough just to write the chords. And I can say, okay, this is A here. It's going to be C here, whatever. And he took it and just put it in a whole nother level.
Wow.
The way that he arranged it.
You're in over your head. Sorry you've been misled. There's no more room left at the top. I'm already there. Better to know your place than to lose in this rat race. I'm everything that you're not. You don't have a prayer. I'm the cat's meow. From the palm of my head, let there be no doubt that I'm the one the crowd demands. I'm the cat's meow, want to buy every man, always on the prowl. When I take the stage, I'm in command.
Did you take feedback and make some changes, almost like workshopping a little bit when you went to festival and it kind of changed a little bit in the book?
We've definitely taken feedback and taken scenes and even story arcs into very different directions than we initially had envisioned. And we're still doing that. We have had readings both in Western Mass, where we live, and in New York City. And we've taken the experience that we had with these readings, bringing things to life a little bit more than just the two of us sitting reading back and forth to each other. And it's illuminated some of the ideas that we want to bubble up to the surface. And we've realized, okay, that has to change because it's not quite clear yet. And so we keep going back and looping through and finding things that need to be clarified and that need to be changed. And there have been characters that have been jettisoned and then new characters brought in, and whole lifestyle and kind of character traits that have radically changed for characters as we've had to make these adaptations to new ideas. So we've definitely taken feedback from performers and from other professionals in the field, and just, you know, people who have been in the audience, and taken that into consideration when we are rewriting things.
And Nicolette, now that, you know, the pandemic is, I mean, we're seeing signs of it, you know, kind of, we're getting back to normalcy a little bit. And, you know, I know that Broadway is going to be coming back this summer. So with that being said, you know, what are you going to do with this musical now that we're kind of ramping things up again? Do you have, what kind of plans do you have for it now that we're getting back into the theater soon?
So just to let you guys know how the musicals work, usually it takes 6 to 10 years on average for a musical to get going.
Yep.
You know, if it's a jukebox musical or movie to musical, which seems very popular nowadays, I think we honestly, my opinion, need more original stories, but that is what it is. They're money makers and they're quick, you know, so those may be a little shorter. But we've been working on this for 4 years, going on 4 years, or no, past 4 years, right?
A little bit past. Yeah.
Sure.
Close to 4.5.
We were mid rehearsals for a production here locally in Western Mass. Then during the pandemic, we completely rewrote the show. So we have a reading coming up with some New York people. We are working with Rachel Klein. She's a New York director. She's done off-Broadway. Soon to do Broadway with our show, if I have anything to do with it. And she's great. We've been working with her. And so we're doing all the steps necessary to rewrite and to move it forward. At some point, we need to do a 29-hour reading, workshop it more, and just keep moving it forward. And whether we do regional first, I'm assuming it will probably be regional because our show is a really big show. And unless it's a big off-Broadway theater and there's not many, chances are I'll probably go regional first and then go to Broadway. But it's definitely a process. And yeah, we're like, you know, I guess we're kind of like grassroots underdog, like nobody knows about us and here we come, you know?
Well, I know, like I said, we're big theater people at the Stage Door Show. So anything we can do to help push it.
Totally appreciate that.
Yeah. I said, we're big theater people. And mentioning from Western Massachusetts, you know, talking about, I like to kind of ask these questions because to me it's fascinating with how different regions do different, you know, things with theater. And, you know, I think there's some gems out there, some diamonds in the rough that people don't know about. So we try to get, you know, some of our audiences, hey, if you're passing through, you know, take a side trip and see these shows. But Western Massachusetts, how is the theater community there? And is this something that you could workshop there or show regionally in Western Massachusetts? I mean, is that a big theater community?
Well, you have the Berkshires.
That's right.
And that's a big,
Yeah.
A lot of people go there and then move forward. Go ahead, Lindel.
Yeah, no, I was going to say there's a lot of smallish theater companies right in our area, but more, you know, when you go a little further out, like you go to Hartford or New Haven, Connecticut, which are about an hour to an hour and a half, 2 hours away, or you go to Boston, there are big theaters and big companies that actually could mount this size show, and it's the kind of thing that they do. So there's definitely options within our region that I think would be a good fit the show and for us, and would make it possible for us to take the next step toward Broadway for sure.
Moulin Rouge started in Boston, so
yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but the Fringe festivals. There's a lot of Fringe festivals. I think I want to say the Orlando Fringe Festival, which I'm very familiar with, is starting up soon. But a lot of musicals that go through Fringe festivals actually get noticed at Fringe festivals, so that might be a great option as well. But I want to get into both of you and your careers, because I know Nicolette and Lindel, you say you did a lot of musical theater together, but doing my research, you both performed at Carnegie Hall. Is that correct?
I
did in college.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like a solo show.
Yeah, but
Right.
just to step on that stage would be amazing, and what a great opportunity to put on your resume.
Mine was in the 90s, and I started taking pictures inside there, and one of the people who worked there said, you either have to stop or I have to take your camera because it's illegal to take pictures in here. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, put my little disposable camera away back when we didn't have cell phones.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just talk about a little bit, Nicolette, your singing as well. I mean, did you start out being a singer, or did you start out in theater and then started singing? How was that?
Yeah, I started singing from the moment I had a hairbrush and a long mirror in my bedroom. And this also probably goes back to jazz roots. My grandmother, not the side that Wanda Savage is on, my father's side, she sang in big bands. So she taught me how to harmonize. So as long as I have known, I've been able to harmonize. Usually when we figure out the vocal parts for Savage, I'm figuring out most of them already by the time we go into the studio, just by ear. But she used to sing, and she would tell me to sing. She would teach me a song, tell me to sing the melody, then she would harmonize with me. So that was like the beginning. And then I was in like a girls' choir when I was younger, a professional girls' choir. And then, just always in music, doing theater, musicals. I wrote an album while I lived in Hawaii, wrote and recorded an album. It was just me and piano. It's nothing you'll find on iTunes unless someone sneaks a copy out there. I probably started writing music. Well, I would say I was fiddling around with it and writing when I was young, like little. But my parents were like, "Oh, that's so cute," and it was just. But I've been writing poetry probably since 5th or 6th grade, continuously throughout high school, and always singing. And then I actually started writing music probably when I was about 20.
Wow.
So that's about, how old am I now? How old am I, Lindel? Almost 28 years.
Wow. That's a great career. And Lindel, I understand you played the creature in Frankenstein, and it was very popular.
I did.
So talk about your theater career.
So my theater career has been sort of circuitous, but I did a lot of theater kind of as a young adult. I did music first, actually, and when I went to college, I went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and I was actually a voice major there. But my real love, I think, has always been in theater and writing. And so over the years, I have done a lot of different things. I worked with Penny Arcade, who was a performer in New York, and we finished up a run of her show in New York called Bitch Dyke Fag Heck Whore, and took it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And from there, it has toured all over the world. I did part of the European leg of the tour. And then I really focused more on writing for quite a number of years, and then came back into performing about 10 years ago. And I was working in a local show here, and met a woman named Linda McInerney, who is producer director, who lives in this area. And she and I started talking, and we knew that we wanted to work together, and we just had to find the right project. And so it took about 9 months before we figured something out. And she commissioned me to write a new adaptation of Frankenstein with one caveat, and that was that I was to play the creature. And I wasn't quite sure how to take that at first, but it ended up being a really incredible experience. And we ended up taking that show to the Edinburgh Fringe in 2015.
Wow.
And did like 2.5 weeks of performances there. And, you know, it was a big task to kind of scale that story down to like a 3-person, a 3-actor show.
Sure.
And so it was kind of a daunting task, but I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I've continued to work on some other writing projects, but Savage has been the one that has taken, I think, more time and energy in the last few years, and with, I think, a great deal of potential. I'm really excited about it.
I am too, and I can see just by looking at your material. And you know, Nicolette, talk about the pressure challenge, I guess. You know, because I think any story, there's obviously, you know, there's a challenge to make it worth watching. But in your case, it's your great grandmother. So did you find a little extra pressure to get the story right, or to get it to the point where your family can accept it, saying, okay, that's believable. I can see that, you know, is how it went. I mean, do you ever get any criticism from your family if it didn't go maybe that way?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
But I mean, they haven't seen it yet. That is why we are saying inspired by, because we have changed some elements and also had to make some up because we didn't know. And you know, there have been some minor issues, more like internally, of like when collaborators want to change something, you know, it's ultimately has got to come down to me, because it's my family story,
right?
And it's my grandmother. And so if something's way off the chart, I haven't had to do it yet, because I'm very creative and I'm always willing to try things. Even if I don't necessarily 100% agree with it, I'm always willing to try. So, you know, we'll go and write whatever scene is suggested. But I mean, I'm sure it may have to come down to that one of these days. I'll have to like say, wait, no, we can't do that. Maybe not. But there is, there is that guardian, like, you have to you have to be the guardian of your family story somewhat. Yes. Part of it is, you know, creative and whatever, but so luckily I haven't had to do that yet.
Yeah, I could see that having a little bit of added pressure on it, but you know, like I said, the story is amazing, and you know, I want to just tell everybody where they can, you know, where can they find you on social media, where can they find you on the internet, because I want to make sure that we blow this up. So let's talk about your social media and your internet. I mean, where they can find you.
Okay, our webpage is savagethemusical.com. We have gotten really popular on social media just because I always post, like, everything's been done grassroots. Social media is all me, like Lindel's done some of the Twitter, like it's all just us. So there's Instagram, Savage the Musical. We have a lot of followers on there. Facebook, Savage the Musical. Twitter, we're growing it, but it's Savage_musical. YouTube, Savage the Musical. You can watch some of our performances on there. And then we have had some vaudeville type performances, not the whole show being shown, but maybe a song or a scene that is on there. We recently did a great collaboration with Mackenzie Lerner, where she did this great dance to Currency of Men. It's fabulous if you go check that out. And then also you can find our music on iTunes, Spotify, all the platforms that stream music. I've been really honored and just excited to see how excited people are. I mean, I can't believe we have over 4,000 Instagram followers, and I can't believe, like, the other day I count up our streams of our singles, and it's like 2,000 if I add up Spotify and iTunes. And I'm just like, I can't, I'm just really humbled and honored that people would take time to listen. And
Well, when you have something as good as what you guys are creating, I think that it goes without saying you're going to get a lot of popularity, and hopefully it just keeps growing and growing.
I appreciate it.
Before we go, I always ask this question of all of my guests. So I'm going to start with you, Nicolette. But if there was one stage in the world that the dream stage, the dream venue that you could have your show in, and there's no limits, what would that stage be?
I'd have to say Broadway, but I can't think of which theater. There's so many good theaters.
Yeah, there are definitely.
I mean, the theater that Wicked's in is ginormous. I guess if you've made it into that theater and Wicked is no longer there, you've made it.
Yeah.
But they're reopening, so
that's true.
So the theater that I really love and I was very, very impressed with is not a Broadway theater. Although I am very impressed with Broadway theater. So I would say I want it to be on a Broadway theater. I don't really care which one.
Sure.
But if I had to choose, like, a theater that I thought was absolutely beautiful, would be the one in Boston. Was it Emerson Lindel, where Moulin Rouge was?
Oh, the
Colonial
Emerson Colonial, I think it is,
Oh,
where Moulin Rouge was. Yeah, it was beautiful.
that theater is beautiful.
Well,
Come on, Boston peeps. Let
That's
us
right.
in. Give me some Boston producers.
Oh, it's you, Lindel. What is that one stage?
Well, let's see. Sydney Opera House.
That's a great one.
Now, if I were to pick one in New York, I mean, I love the Winter Garden Theater. I think that is a spectacular theater, and it's big enough to hold this show.
What's in that one?
Beetlejuice was in it. That's the
okay.
last thing I saw in the Winter Garden.
I think it was
Okay,
beautiful.
so that was that theater.
Yeah.
But God, there's so many good ones that I would be happy with almost any of them. But I do love the Winter Garden, and it's got a great history.
It does, and I can definitely see your show on Broadway. And like you said, it does take several years, but you the way I can see it right now, I mean, I could definitely see this as a Broadway show. And like I said, whatever we can do to help promote it, we're huge theater people. We have a lot of friends on Broadway, and whatever we can do to push this along, I definitely want to do that. I'm a huge fan already of the story, and from what I can see, and just your website, which I'm looking at right now, it's very well done. It's very professional, very well done. So again, keep up the great work. Can't wait to see where this is going to go. Try to take us along for the ride if you can.
Yes,
Absolutely.
really
We will definitely be there every step of the way.
And I will say that, like, I really, really want as many women as possible. I know there's a shortage of women directors, producers. There's shows that are put out, and like none of the roles that people could get Tonys for are women. And I could name the shows.
Sure.
Some of the shows are about women, and hardly any women on the creative team or the producers. So come on, women.
Let's
sign
go.
up.
Absolutely.
Produce Savage. We'd love to have you.
Well, again, it's been a pleasure to have you both on, Nicolette Blount and Lindel Hart. Thank you so much, creators of Savage the Musical, and we'll be putting more out on our social media, our Instagram. We have a lot of followers on our Instagram, so we're going to definitely post things on there. And if, like I said, if there's anybody that wants more information, just go to savagethemusical.com. It has all the information on there, the team, the music, performances, news, photos, store. And you can also contact the team as well on there. So just make sure you go there as soon as possible. And best of luck to you both. And thank you again for joining us today.
Dave.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
As we say in Chickasaw.
All right. Have a great night.
When the dark seems to surround you, no